Welcome to Wisdom Talk Radio, a collaborative community of explorers in conscious living. My teacher Dawn taught me years ago about the transformative potential of business, and that business was a place where creativity could shine. That, as my guest today teaches, the doing of business can itself be a spiritual practice, and we can be nourished in the doing of it. How could doing business and doing good in the world not be a separate focus? That's what we see most of the time in the world. But if we bring them together, what's possible? And I'd love for you to stay tuned for this powerful conversation with my guest today who knows so much about how. Welcome. I'm Laurie Seymour, host of Wisdom Talk Radio and CEO and founder of the Baca Institute, home of the Quantum Connection Process. Go there to discover your unique connection with the essence of who you are by taking the Quantum Connection quiz. We're each designed to directly connect with Source differently in our own unique way. And knowing your own style helps to open a deeper connection with the universe and with your own relationship with Source. It's really the secret to creating what you want, what you truly want in your life. Because who you are is exactly who is needed. Since 1999, Mark Silver has worked with heart-centered entrepreneurs to help them realize that every act of business can be an act of love. And I'll continue about him, but just as an aside, I've kind of peripherally known Mark for a long, long time. I've seen him in, different events, and we've been in some similar circles. And what I've just known to be true about Mark is his integrity of heart, and that he's consistent. He's consistent in what he does and how he shows up. And that's such a rare thing in the world. Mark is one of the pioneers in integrating real spirituality with the nitty-gritty of small business. He founded Heart of Business in 2001. So he's got a good track record. He is a designated master teacher within his Sufi lineage, and he has received his Masters of Divinity. As a coach, teacher, and spiritual healer, he has facilitated thousands of individual sessions with entrepreneurs and has led hundreds of classes, seminars, groups, and retreats. His weekly writings and teachings are followed by thousands of people around the globe. You can find all of that at Heart of Business. He is the author of the new book, Heart-Centered Business. Welcome, Mark. I'm really, really so eager to have this conversation and delighted that you are here.
I'm grateful to be here, Laurie. I'm looking forward to digging in.
Yeah. So where do we start? Boy, because trust is such a theme for me in my life, yes, and in my work and my teaching. You talk about how trust and trusting yourself in your own business is so essential, and I'd love to hear what you mean by that. And you have a not tack on, that's diminishing it. You have something that I think goes along with that, which is about deeply listening to everything. And that is also so important to me. So I'd love for you to, maybe that's a place we can dive in.
Excellent. Well, it's funny because this was the third chapter in the book, was like, you can be trusted with your business, because a lot of people don't trust themselves, to make good business decisions or make good decisions, or to just, be able to follow through and be successful. Mm-hmm. And this, like, the original chapter was supposed to be on something else as I had planned it. And I tried to write it, and I couldn't, it just wasn't kind of flowing. And one of the insights I've had over the years is that sometimes when I can't do something, it's because it's not supposed to happen. I'm trying to
Mhm.
do something that's not there.
Yep.
That's not the only reason. It requires deeper listening. But
Yeah.
and so this chapter around trust came out because and then it flowed really easily. And it has to do with nuance and a more grounded understanding of what I think has been popularized, a spiritual teaching that's been popularized and misunderstood
Mm.
um, in its popularization, which is that everything is from the divine. Everything is from the divine.
Mhm.
Everything has a divine origin. But then that can easily become a cover for, I think, fairly shallow approaches to like, well, and then everything's already perfect, or love and light, or
Mhm.
and it becomes more of a spiritual bypass.
Yeah.
Instead, from a Sufi perspective, we understand that the world is pretty dense. It is divine in origin and in nature and in expression, but in terms of the reflection of the original essence,
Mhm.
things get distorted.
Yeah.
It's hard to be clear. I don't
We're
want to get
moving
too
from 5D to
esoteric.
3D, and
Yeah,
everything gets more dense, as you said.
I exactly, and I can get more. I don't want to get too esoteric in here,
Okay.
but it's like you can because I can geek out on spiritual teachings.
Me too.
Anyway, but um, so the story I like to tell that's in the book in more detail is just one example of so many with our clients. We had a client who had the desire to collaborate with others to get her business out there more,
Mhm.
and and she had a good feeling about, oh, I should be doing this. But then there was somebody who was going to collaborate with her, and she had the feeling like, oh no, this isn't, like, something's wrong.
Mhm.
And she was trying to figure out, like, oh, is there something wrong? Just fear, and I should just go ahead with the collaboration,
Mhm.
or was she getting guidance that she should drop the collaboration and turn away from it? And what I had suggested to her, which I think is, really, easy to understand at an intellectual level, but can be hard to walk with, or, just take some patience and some care
Mhm.
to walk with, is that both were true. Both were true, but she needed to listen more deeply. Like, everything that arises in us can be trusted. Our fear can be trusted. There's wisdom in it.
Yeah.
Our happiness can be trusted. Our joy can be trusted. Our anger can be trusted. But we need to listen more deeply to what's really there. Because if we're just reacting to the surface,
Mhm.
we can end up, just in reaction instead of in a deeper place of wisdom. And
Yeah.
so when I supported her to listen more deeply, she really got like, yeah, the collaboration is a good idea, but there was some way that she wasn't standing up for her own needs
Mm.
in the collaboration. And so the collaboration as it stood wasn't right. And
Mhm.
so when she got clear on her own needs, spoke them, the other person was like, oh yeah, of course, yeah, let's do it that way. And then the collaboration felt great and everything smoothed out. And it's a fairly simple and straightforward one. Sometimes it can be more complicated than that, but um, the deeper the deeper lesson, even deeper than just attending to your own needs, and that it's
Mhm.
okay for your own needs to be present, is this listening. It's like, oh, what if everything that arises in us is divine in origin and is trustworthy
Mm.
and needs to be listened more deeply to
Yeah.
find the truth of it?
Yeah. That really resonates with me because I often am teaching people about the need to, first of all, listen and listen to, what is present, but, and then for me, it's what I call it is the decoding process,
Mm-hmm.
which is listening more deeply, which is asking those questions and seeing, is this mine? Is this someone else's? Yes, I'm to collaborate, but is it with this person? Or how is it to go? And so that's actually, I think, a really wonderful example of the dimensionality of what's going on. and that it's
Yes.
never just one thing.
Yes. Yes. There's often so many threads woven in. I mean, it's how I started the book. The very beginning of the book, I say, if you have issues with business,
Mm.
those are legitimate. Like, I don't want you to get over your issues with business. Business has been done terribly,
Mhm.
terribly, in some cases, actually capital E evil,
Mhm.
and in terribly destructive, unjust ways. And anyone with a heart would have issues with business. And that's a sign of wisdom. It's a sign of caring that we have those reactions.
Mhm.
And we don't want to just throw it all out. We don't want to abandon it to that kind of lack of ethics, lack of morality, lack of care and love. And instead, we want to find, like, where is the path of love in business? Where's the path of love in so many things in
Mhm.
our culture?
Can you say a little more about that path of love? I mean, you say so often in your book, which I haven't finished yet because when we're taping this, it's just come out. But I could say everything is energy. From a quantum physics standpoint, that is true, and that energy is love. So that everything is love. Every love is findable in everything.
Mhm.
And at the same time, you also talk about discerning between what is harmful and what is uncomfortable. And I loved
Right.
that. And that's such an
Yes.
important teaching. Can you speak to that?
Yeah. One of the most important, what I understand from the Sufi teachings that I've experienced in my life, is that one of the most important capacities that we can develop as a human being is the capacity to be with uncomfortable emotions without either trying to soothe them or turn away from them or
Mhm.
fix them in some
Mhm.
way. And it has to be said in a caveat that I am not talking about staying in abusive situations. I'm not talking about being harmed or allowing oneself to be harmed.
Mhm.
There's a difference between trauma and traumatic situations, and just times when the emotions are uncomfortable,
Mhm.
fear or nervousness or sadness, and like things arise in us, and um, being able to lean into that and being able to, like, slow down and notice, like, okay, this emotion is not fatal. Like, this particular, like, this discomfort is not harming me.
Mhm.
It's just
Mhm.
uncomfortable. And can I lean in? Can I stay here long enough to
Mhm.
find the wisdom, to
Mhm.
find what's here, and to listen more deeply, to discover, is there a different way to do this? Discover, is there a healthier relationship my heart um, can have with whatever, with
Mhm.
sales or marketing or systems, or working with a client who is upset, or there's so many different things in business that have emotional content for us. And
Yeah.
if we're trying to soothe it or shut it down, or we're trying to operate our business always from trying to avoid those situations or avoiding making mistakes, our business becomes very tiny because there's
Yeah.
not a lot of places we could go
Right.
that aren't going to have some kind of discomfort, at least initially.
And people talk about how being an entrepreneur, being in business, is like the biggest both spiritual test and spiritual practice there could be. It's that engine for possible transformation and growth, because we are always having to stretch. We cannot stay within a little window of comfort and think we can do anything.
Well, at least in the beginning. I will say that I don't think it's the biggest. I think that everyone has their own path, and
Of course,
some
of course.
people,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I always like to
No, no,
highlight that because it's
great catch in that.
yeah, the discerning. But it's like uh but um I will say that we don't always want to be expanding. We don't always want to be
Mm,
growing. We don't always want to be in that place of discomfort. It
yeah.
is okay for us to be soothed. Sometimes our business gets to a place where it's working pretty well. I had someone come to me once a few years ago saying, I I think I want to get coaching from you. And I was like, the thing I do when somebody says that, I ask a bunch of questions.
Mm-hmm.
And in this case, I, I'm like, it sounds like you've just kind of like recently gotten to a place of like a plateau where things are going really well and you're enjoying it and you have enough and
And
like,
yay.
and I mean, is it really time to like continue growing or expanding or developing? Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you need me. I think you just need to like celebrate and enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, "Oh my goodness, I think you're right." And like, it's like, I talked myself out of a client, and I was felt an integrity with that
Yeah.
because I think we need to celebrate. We need to be able to relax. I'm not suggesting in this that we should always be in that place of
Mm-hmm.
discomfort.
Mm-hmm.
And when the discomfort arises, we want, when we have the resilience, when we have the care, when we, have enough rest. Like sometimes I'm like, okay, this is too much. I've got to go read a novel, or I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
go
Mm-hmm.
snuggle with my wife or my cat or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, or go walk in the woods or, you know, whatever. And then when I'm resourced, come back to the discomfort. But
Yes. Yes.
but I want us all to have more of that ability because there's so much available to us in those moments of discomfort. I mean, that's when people make the breakthroughs and realize, like, oh, I can handle a sales conversation really well. I just need to learn how to do it. And then with integrity, and then step
Mm-hmm.
into it. Oh, I can market myself. Oh, I can ask a sustainable price. Oh, I can put a system in place that makes the business much easier
Right.
to work, and
So it's
but
about building those muscles.
it
To,
is.
to tolerate is not a great word, but to be with, to hang out with that discomfort.
Hmm. Right, right, exactly. And I think that we're familiar with that concept in a lot of situations. It's like, I think everyone who's an adult is like, okay, wow, I'm hungry, but the food's not done, or I'm going to wait for someone else to eat, or maybe we have a
Mhm.
spiritual practice of fasting, so we endure discomfort for a little bit to get to something, or we go to the gym, or we go out for physical exercise or whatever, and it's a little uncomfortable. It stresses us
Mhm.
in a good way. I'm suggesting a similar, like that also operates in this realm
Mhm.
emotionally, that when we have the space for uncomfortable emotions and to be able to not kind of try to escape from them, there's yeah, there's a whole business waiting for us, or on the other side.
Yeah, yeah, I like that a lot. I like that a lot. And as we allow more of that, the doors that get opened up, they're sort of they feed us because that's how we can go. Oh, I can do this, and then let me go on to the next piece of whatever it is that's wanting to be expressed or wanting to be shared through me or wanting to be created.
Right. And I think that so I'll share an example since my book just came out.
Uh-huh.
One of the I was told that I should ask absolutely everyone that I know for help in getting the book out. And I did that a lot early in business, and then late. I mean, of course, part of business is marketing, but this, like, to go through all of my like really personal contacts and say, my book's
Mhm.
coming out, will you please help, was
Yeah.
probably like the most vulnerable I've been in quite some time.
Mhm.
Um, and it was incredibly vulnerable. And at times it was really uncomfortable. And at times I had to pause and breathe before like sending the email or reaching out to someone.
Mhm.
And the amount of love and care that came back to me, like I did, like what I'm wanting to highlight here, um, is that I didn't have to do it from a place of bravado. Like sometimes avoiding the difficult emotions means um, pushing through and going, oh yeah, I'm going to go to market. And like my book is
Mhm.
coming out and I'm so excited and you can help me get it out there. It's like,
Yeah.
I couldn't ask people like that, like
Mhm.
that wasn't true to where I was feeling. And uh, I don't know if I would ever say it quite like that. But but for me to go to people saying, wow, this is really tender, and I'm really committed to this message of healing in business, would you be willing, no pressure, no attachment, would you be willing to help me get this out there in the following ways? And I don't know if everyone has had the opportunity to do marketing or promotion or just business development from that place of vulnerability. That also allows the help in. Like, you don't have to be ultra confident. You don't have to be like blustery or whatever that is, like fronting your like confidence that you're not feeling, and instead show up authentically. I had a ton of strength and care and passion about the message of the book but I was feeling vulnerable in myself personally, and both of those could be present. And it was probably, because it was authentic, it was way more effective than anything else, because there was an actual connection available.
People could feel you and feel the truth of you. Yeah. And you also talk about, and you just sort of led us into that, about neediness. That the importance of understanding that being needy is not a bad thing.
Right.
And more than that, it's a human necessity. It's a human, experience.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. It goes to the individual and the collective in that conversation.
Yeah, there's a lot here. But at its heart, I think if you and I were to just hold our breath until we passed out, that would be a good demonstration of how important neediness is to the human being. I can't manufacture the air that I breathe. I need about 10 to 12 breaths a minute. And if I don't breathe in from the outside for a fairly short period of time, I'm unable to function. And so I just, I'm not suggesting we do that. I think we can. That's a good thought experiment.
Too much silence in the
no, dead air. So, but one of the things that I talk about is as a necessary quality has to do with vulnerability, and vulnerability is like when we're impervious, when we're invulnerable, nothing can get in.
We cannot receive.
We can't receive. You can't. It's like nothing. You're like and so neediness is our longest running course, the Heart of Money and Power Transformational Journey. I've been teaching in one form or another since 2002. Has been, the core message of that is this neediness, and how healthy neediness is. Neediness is a doorway to abundance. And it's like the refusal of our neediness, the rejection of our neediness, that shuts us down, that disconnects us from the people and the earth and the resources around us. If we don't recognize our neediness, nothing works. And to be in a healthy relationship with our neediness is it's exactly that. Like I couldn't promote this book on my own. It's just one example, just to kind of segue off of what we were talking about before. And those vulnerable places were coming from not like a healthy way of being with my neediness. I think what happens is people think neediness is bad, and then they cover it over, and then people are, then you seem unapproachable when that's covered over, and so that disconnects people.
Right.
Or the neediness comes out unconsciously, and it's directed in a way that people can't work with it, because the neediness that comes out is like a deep neediness to be deeply cared for or healed or nourished, really at a divine level. And that's overwhelming to another human being that isn't in tune with that, and so people think, oh my God, too much neediness.
Yeah.
It's not too much neediness. It's just directed in a way without consent, that in a way that the person doesn't know how to support and contain. If our neediness, instead of being shut down, is directed into the heart, it's held with beloveds who can cherish us and can help support us in accessing it inside ourselves and through each other, then we transform that neediness into desire. And the desire is a way to connect with other people. That desire that there's a Sufi quote that's attributed directly to the divine, an Islamic quote directed that says, "I was a hidden treasure, and I yearned to be known, and so I created the creation in order to be known." And so, from a Sufi point of view, the entire creation is here because the divine wanted to be known, and we carry that spark in us of wanting to be known. And when we can truly witness someone else, it's a healing. When we feel truly witnessed, it's a healing. And that desire to be known is a lot of what connects us. So when our heart's neediness is fulfilled at a deeper level, and then that desire to witness and be witnessed arises out of us, it creates a really beautiful channel for connection with others.
Yeah. And for creation. I mean, it goes beyond healing into that essence of creation.
Yes.
I mean, if I think of the divine, if I think of presence having to do with the act of creation, that's when we get to become God in the physical, so to speak. In other words, we get to create with that divine flowing through us. So anyway, there's so much to it, because it's also about the illusion of separation.
Yes.
The belief that we are separate. I've been writing a lot about that recently in a book that I'm working on, and that when I lost the figure, my father, who I identified, and I felt that connection to the divine through that feeling of unconditional love, I separated. I didn't believe that existed. And in some ways, I think that's what we're all doing is, as you say, melting that illusion, having to melt that illusion.
Yes. In many ways, that's the witnessing. That's what Sufism would say is the purpose of the human being, is to melt that illusion. Yeah. And the melting the illusion is also about expanding. It's a very spiritual conversation, all about business. It's very beautiful. Melting that illusion has to do with also redefining, enlarging our understanding, our experience of what connection feels like. There is a very understandable desire for us to have that feeling of connection that feels intimate and warm and delicious, but the love and the connection also exists in the distance. I've had some very profound experiences of feeling the presence of the love and the divine in the experience of feeling disconnected, in the experience of feeling isolated, and feeling like, oh, this too is the divine, this too is the love. Not a love that is judgmental, like, oh, you have to experience the love this way by being disconnected. Right. It was one of those experiences that is hard to put into words, but I had this deep feeling of feeling cared for, feeling the love, feeling the presence of the divine, feeling the oneness without any change to that feeling of isolation and separation. And um, and I think that this is part of our work in the world is finding the love in absolutely everything, so that we're not mistakenly creating more separation by preferring certain things over other things.
Certain emotional states or certain experiences over others. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Whew. So it really is about remembering love, period. In everything.
Yes. And it's like, and one of the reasons, I mean, it's funny because we're talking of it. I do love my spiritual path, and I love the spiritual teachings and talking to people from all different paths. It's very beautiful, but I'm really a very practical person. I was a paramedic. I do woodworking. I love working in business. I love these practical pieces.
Yeah.
And what I think is really extraordinary about the journey in anything in life, and including in business, is that we don't, because of this reality, we don't have to have them be separate things. We don't have to go connect with love and then come back and do marketing.
Right.
Like we can find the love in the marketing. We can find the love in the business development. We can find the love in some of these really difficult places in business that have been so twisted and distorted and misused. And it's our finding the love in them that allows something new to arise, or something very ancient to reform. Because commerce and business have been in humanity for forever, and it's only the last few hundred years that this particularly toxic form of capitalism has so distorted human relationships. But yeah, and so so for instance, this, when we have this feeling of being witnessed that I was referring to before, if we bring that into marketing, people talk about, well, you need to speak to the pain points in marketing. And often it's done with by re-traumatizing people, reactivating people's trauma. And then the only way you can get out of that feeling is to buy, is to purchase the offer. And that's extremely manipulative, toxic way of selling. However, you do need to speak to what's true for people. And if someone is in pain or struggling with something, if we can see them as whole, but still also witness the struggle, we can use our marketing as a way of bringing empathy and care, not as a way of triggering or traumatizing people.
But you just said something, though. You brought together that seeing them as whole and speaking to where their own discomfort is.
Yes.
Yes, that's exactly. That can be a difficult place for people to travel, because there's so much that just doesn't even acknowledge that doesn't acknowledge the wholeness,
right,
along with everything. And and I'd love for you maybe to if you have some examples about how you market, because marketing is such an experience of relationship.
Right.
And if it's not, then to me it's about manipulation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so for instance, let's say someone works with people. I don't know. Let's talk about a chiropractor, who helps people who have had very active lives, but have had some kind of a back injury that's keeping them from doing things that are important to them. You can do marketing from a place that says, like, you've had a terrible back injury, and you're at risk of never picking up your child again, and and this is a terrible loss, and how horrible grief, and so if we don't fix your back, your life is going to be ruined. And so and I'm hyperbolizing it, but people sometimes go there, and it can, and that's kind of like I can feel the energy starting, oh no, oh no, oh no, kind of
I
feeling.
better.
It's to see somebody that's broken. It's like, well, let's get you in here as quickly as possible so you don't have to miss another hug with your child. That kind of energy.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can drop into your heart and you can see the wholeness, and you can also be in a place of humility to say, like, I'm not the only chiropractor, I'm not the only way. There's so many ways that this person can get help, so many resources. This person can heal, whoever it is, the nameless person that's out there that hasn't yet received the marketing. And then you can say, like, you've had a really active life, and like many people, you've had an injury and your back is keeping you from doing things you really care about. Maybe it's been really hard because you can't pick up your child like you could, or you can't do the physical kinds of exercise that you like to do. And I just want you to know that, people can heal from this. Like, this can get handled.
Mm-hmm.
This can get handled. And thankfully, there's a lot of resources, and I'm one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And if I resonate for you, if you like my approach, I'd be happy to talk to you about it. It's a very different, and I know I changed my voice and I changed everything, but even if it's just on a written page without it lands differently.
Exactly.
It lands differently.
Exactly. I used to teach years and years and years ago at Western States Chiropractic College in Portland, and
Oh yeah.
and started a doctor-patient relationship seminar for those who were working in the clinic. And you could really feel how differently people wanted to approach their patients. And being able to drop into oneself to really feel your own humanity allows you then to feel another's.
Exactly. Yeah.
So one other thing that I wanted to hear what you have to say about. I mean, this is something you wrote. It was about the annihilating power of love. And I'm remembering an old teacher of mine saying, there are times when you have to put on the full armor of God and really go out and do battle. And what she was meaning was, you've got to stand in your fullness and in your strength. This is not a time where you're just saying, oh, everything is love and bliss. So
yes.
Annihilating.
Yes. So again, it's like a lot of different spiritual religious paths talk about a lot of different qualities of the divine. Love is usually the one that gets talked about a lot, but from a Sufi point of view, there are so many different divine qualities. Like the divine is the source of love, but love isn't the only way to talk about the divine. There's a divine quality of mercy and compassion. There's also a divine quality of justice and domination, and quality of life, and a quality of death, and a quality of accountability and of witnessing. And it's like there's in the Sufi tradition traditionally talked about 99 divine qualities. There's more than that, but that's traditionally how it's talked about. And each of those qualities carries us back to the divine, and is also in many ways infinite in itself. So there's a lot of complexity in these words. In English is the language, I believe, people can correct me if I'm wrong. It's either the most, or it's the one that has one of the largest vocabularies. And because English has such a large vocabulary, we tend to divide things up. Like, the words tend to have very precise, unambiguous meanings. But we still have some remnants from other, like I believe in Old Saxon, like the word cleave, right? The word cleave means both to split apart and to bring together. It carries its opposite. In the divine names in Sufism, there's one quality, Aziz, which is the divine, one of many divine qualities of strength, which means both the invincible in might, and it also means the cherished beloved. It carries both of those meanings. And so when we talk about the annihilating power of love, we have to understand, kind of similar to how I was talking about the love and the distance, love and the separation, that love has such expansive meaning beyond, like, it's not from a Sufi point of view, it's not a sentiment, it's not an emotion, it's not a feeling, it's this power, it's this quality that moves in the world, and it's gravity in a certain sense. And anyone who has experienced love in a profound way knows that love has the power to turn your world upside down, to take something as, and change it completely. You fall in love with someone, or you have a child, or you have some other deep experience of love, and suddenly everything's different, and your relationship to everything is different. And I like to say that I believe that if many of us could truly unleash the power of love in the world of business, it would annihilate the world of business as it is and transform it into something very different. And I don't mean that in kind of like a waving wands magic sense. I mean it that there have been, I've had clients who have worked, their work is in corporations. They're coaches or consultants in corporations. And the ones who have been doing the deeper work with their clients to help them really find what's in their heart and what's true for them and access, many of those people end up discovering that they can't do the work that they were hired for. They can't stay with the company because it's not in alignment. The morality or the ethics of the company is out, that the lifestyle is not in alignment with a good life for them. And so that's what I mean. It's like if everyone were to really start living in their strength and in their truth and in love, there were a lot of institutions and organizations that could not continue to function. We see examples of that with some of the labor unions that are on strike, the UAW, United Auto Workers, and Kaiser Permanente, the unions walking out because people from the divine quality of justice, divine quality of love, the divine quality of care says, this cannot continue like this. It has to be different. And I can no longer put my life energy into this unless it changes.
So it brings up a question in me for you, Mark, and it's about the reason for writing Heart of Business. And often people will write a book because, I want to get more clients. I want to have bigger business. And this is my business card or my calling card. Feels to me, that wouldn't be you probably anyway, but it feels to me, I'm feeling the bigness of, and I don't want to speak for you. I'm just sensing something about your mission in writing this book.
So it's a really good question because, I've been doing this for 23 years. I've self-published. I'm looking over at some of my self-published work. I've never really wanted to write a book. It just was not really anything that I aspired to. And I can think of, yes, I do want our business to grow and develop. I do want to reach more people. I do want our business to be more successful. I want to be able to give raises to people on our team, and I want to be able to, we have a small property here in central Pennsylvania. We want to turn it into a food forest and provide, and grow way more food than we need so we can contribute to food security in our area. There's lots of things that if there was like a whole bunch of extra money that flowed in, it would be wonderful to do. So I don't have any complaints
you don't have any problems with that. Yeah.
I don't have any problems. I teach business. I don't have any problems with the book contributing to financial success.
Absolutely.
But I want to say that this was not a choice. Like, someone approached me who was a client of ours who worked for this publisher and said, wow, this work is really impacting me. Would you be willing to submit a proposal? And when I asked in my heart, I'm like, okay, I'm supposed to submit a proposal. And then it was accepted. I guess I'm supposed to write this book. So I wrote the book. Anytime I've tried to talk about it as, I did it for X reason, I've never, I can't, I was just
Yeah.
supposed to, I just, you know,
Yeah.
even if the book had flopped, it was not
Mhm.
attached to outcome. It was just
Right.
a step I was supposed to take on the path.
Yeah. You were doing what was presented, as my friend Jennifer Huff likes to say. Yeah, I completely understand that. And I suspect it will have a big impact.
I
And,
hope
and,
so.
and that can happen without any attachment.
Yeah.
I think the only way it can happen is without any attachment.
Well, so Sufism is interesting in that it is a devotional path rather than a uh, uh, what's the word? Not a
No.
transcendent path, a contemplative path. It's
Yeah.
a devotional path rather than a
Yeah,
contemplative path.
that's one thing I just
So,
learned yesterday.
and so, yeah, and so both paths lead to the same place, and one's not better than the other. It's just my personality, devotional. So the devotion makes use of the heart's natural ability or natural desire to attach and to attach to the Most High, to attach to Allah, to attach to the source of love. And so I can't say that I'm unattached.
No.
You
And thank
know,
you for that
do you know what I
distinction.
mean?
Yes,
It's
I
like
do.
there's a like I have a yearning, this was a lot of work. I have a real yearning and desire for this book to be successful, for it to wing
Mhm,
out into the world, for it to impact people, for it to help support me and my family and to support the team at Heart
mhm,
of Business. I have yearning for that,
mhm,
deep yearning for all of that. And but you're right, I don't have um, to use attachment in a different way. Like I don't have a neediness like it has to or I'm doomed. Like
mhm, mhm.
that's not there.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Yeah.
Thank you for that, speaking to that distinction and the devotional and the contemplative. And it's not even a versus, it's
No,
just
just
two
different paths. Yeah.
expressions. Yeah.
Mm.
Um, but it's something that I will take away from this. One of the things I will take away from this and really be with, because the way you just described that feels really full and replete with so much, so much to
Yeah.
really consider. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot. I mean, one of the big, like contemplative paths, because they tend not to be theistic and they tend to be about being unattached, because if you empty out then something else can come
Mm,
in,
mhm,
and where people tend to misstep with those has to do with feeling that the universe is cold and impersonal and
mhm,
distant.
mhm,
And what tend to be the more theistic paths, the devotional paths,
mhm,
um, try to attach to the Most High. And where we misstep
mhm,
is what our path calls idolatry, by connecting to things, creating the judgmental beard in the sky image of the
mhm, mhm,
divine,
mhm,
or getting caught up with something that isn't really the oneness, but
mhm.
falling short of that. And so that's, both paths have their missteps and both paths have their beauties, and we get placed where we get placed.
Yeah. It's a new way for me to think about things and for me to reflect on, oh, yes, if I talk about where I am, even though, one of the things I do, I'm a meditation teacher, and, my path is more devotional if we're going to look at those as those two ways of being. So
Mhm.
all fascinating to me. Please tell our listeners, our viewers, about how they can get Heart of Business and more
Right.
of you.
Yes. Yes. So our business lives at heartofbusiness.com. And if you scroll down on the homepage, the book is there. The book also has its own website, heartcenteredbusinessbook.com.
And I will put
Um,
both of those in the show notes.
yes. And if you want, you can start just by signing up to download an excerpt, the introduction and the first chapter, to get a taste of the book, as well as seeing the full table of contents. Um, or
Or just get the
it's
book.
it's a book. It's a book. $25. It's a book. So or I guess Amazon has the Kindle version available. So yeah, that's where you can find us. And of course, at Heart of Business, we have other offers should you resonate. If you want other deeper support with your business.
Thank you so much, Mark Silver, Heart of Business, and for your heart, for how you show up and share your heart. I really, really value that.
Thank you. Thank you so much for hosting me here and letting me into your world. I just takes it's a deep trust, and I'm really grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. And I want to thank our guests, not our guests, our listeners, our viewers. Thank you for being with us today at Wisdom Talk Radio. And I want to invite you to join us here regularly for more wisdom, discovery, and illumination. And if you really enjoyed today, please leave us a review, because when you leave us a review, that tells other people, oh, this is worth listening to. There's more for you here, because really, we want to have as many people as possible access this kind of wisdom and to be able to transform the world. So if there's more you want to discover about how to thrive with your own personal quantum connection, take the Quantum Connection quiz now, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining us here at Wisdom Talk Radio. We wish you well in your conscious explorations. For more information and to join in the conversation, our website is wisdomtalkradio.com or at Wisdom Talk Radio on Facebook.